Hi, everybody. Okay, let's get going. We are at 11:48 p.m. on August 14th, 2026, and we are on 2,203 days since Richard, our son, was forcibly removed from his barracks room, taken downstairs to the basement room, uh, which is the arms room, where Uh, it was a secure room for the infiltrated cartel to take Richard's life. And then his body was stolen off of Fort Bliss and trafficked to Juarez for disposal. And everything is coming together now. 6 years of very hard work to put this case together, to find out what happened, to get our son's remains, right? To get our son's remains and to get accountability. We don't want the people that did this to Richard out on the street in society. The level of crime in this case is so vile and so vulgar. They cannot be on the street, right? They cannot be. They cannot be in society. They are a danger to society. They're a danger to our national security. So, and of course, Richard needs to have justice, and we need to have our son's remains with full honors because he is a U.S. Army soldier, a volunteer, and this was done by his chain of command and unsafe unsafe where he's supposed to be the safest in the barracks and as a whistleblower to get whistleblower protection. But his reports instead were blocked. And when he requested a transfer, that was denied. And a code red was issued to have his life taken. This cannot go unaddressed, unpunished. Um, we need to hold these people accountable for the sake of all of our service members, our young service members that volunteer to do our country some good, right? And we need to absolutely send a message to any kind of chain of command that wants to make deals with the cartel, that want to traffic on our military installations, that want to use our resources and use that for criminal actions. So it is has a lot of implications, and it has to be done. So we are a patriotic family, a close family, and to see what happened with Richard be part of a greater plan against the President of the United States because he was stopping the fuel theft and the trafficking and wanting to build a wall, right? Wanting to build a wall. So, and I'm talking about President Trump and um, the exploitation of so many people is by this criminal terroristic organization is shown with the recent arrests of the lawyers that were going and picking up trafficked women to well, they were dirty Johns, right? They were dirty Johns and they wanted to have their way with these women. And they were lawyers. They absolutely knew what they were doing. And then they took them back to their captors, right? At least that's what Mario Ortiz Serraldi did. He had his way. He picked her up, had his way with her, a little dirty John, and then he took her back to her capture. and that was his legal help, right? That was his legal help. And who knows what kind of really legal help that he did for the traffickers, for the terroristic organizations, for the cartel, because Montoya, Mr. 2028 stamp, just said, oh, he was soliciting for prostitution. No, he was more than just a dirty John. He was a trafficker. And he knew better, even more so because he used his knowledge of law school to get him in that position, which makes his crime even worse. So we know what they were doing at the border, exploiting children, exploiting and doing worse things. And of course, using them as mules. It was absolutely crimes against humanity. And so President Trump was absolutely right because he has intel. He has intel that we don't have. And, because he has a big group of people, a huge group of people that give him intel. And today, look, 6 years, we don't have the big group, but let me tell you, we have some intel, don't we? People are coming. We have over 54,000 followers. Um, uh, we are shadow banned, and a lot of people that come and get information from our page are, hidden. They're in the shadows. So, we have some intel because we've been doing a lot of digging for 6 years. And we can tell you that President Trump in 2016 was absolutely right to want to build a wall, to want to control that border, to want to turn off the spigot. But even he at that time, do you remember it? The mutiny was just unbelievable. The mutiny was unbelievable. So, those were some turbulent years during his first administration. And, of course, to get reelected, they also tampered with that, with the Walmart mass shooting. And today, I want to tell you, we have established a motive. Absolutely a motive. Because nothing happens in El Paso without the El Paso cartel knowing about it and giving it's okay. That's their territory because it's right by the premium basin, the oil field. And they have long established connections with the trains, with the ports, the shipping, with the highways, and and cartels that run those highways that extract money to, um, let all the trafficking trucks flow free. And I know those highways because I was born in um, White Sands Missile Range. I went to school in El Paso. Then I moved over with my family to Temple, Texas. Of course, we know I-35. Um, we know Texas and that whole highway that was really created with this open border, um, that created a trafficking pipeline. It was bad. It was really bad. And now, there's a paper trail, and you have to really, uh, you know, dig in and um, we have found a paper trail that leads to the El Paso cartel. The El Paso cartel, absolutely the operative, Alejandro de la Vega Foster, who's a double agent, and a fuel theft, a fuel thief. And of course, her husband, and not only that, her crimes, working over in Chihuahua and then working in Texas for the Texas Governor Abbott, simultaneously working for the Chihuahuan governor, is, you know, and being on the councils there, or committees, the committees that run the law enforcement and border control and all of the intel for the border area, and making her gas stations more numerous, right? More numerous. And, those crimes of bringing in Cesar Peniche and his fuel theft operation, like there wasn't enough fuel theft operation, they had to bring in another one, because they wanted an attorney general. So Cesar Peniche, the attorney general, was a fuel thief with his Carvel group of Carvel. But that was Alejandra de la Vega Foster and her influence that brought him up from Mexico City, with, of course, her husband Paul Foster and his partners Woody Hunt and William Sanders, who is Beto O'Rourke's father-in-law. And I would even say the Jetsons, James Jetson, because the more you find out about James Jetson, and I would even add in there um, Jeffrey Epstein, because that's what it's looking like. Very clearly, that's what you put the puzzle pieces in and they're fitting. And then they brought in, of course, General Kelly to be a security advisor for the Chihuahuan El Chapo fentanyl governor, Maru Campos, whose mother was running the narco crematorium, letting it operate anyway, owned by Rafael Ariano Curon, who has Argo Oil and Gas. So this is a terroristic organization network, a network of terroristic organizations, because you have to add to that the CJNG and the Sinaloa and the Juarez cartel. And it for this information that I just posted that I'm talking about, that has me a little bit riled up because of the motive of it. And let me post it up. It was a lawsuit that started in 2011, y'all. But, this is just the tip of the iceberg. They absolutely have known for decades that there is a fuel theft network going back and forth over that border in connection with the Mexican cartels, with the El Paso cartel, that are creating all kinds of major violence. And it's really only been President Trump that has attempted to do something about it. Really attempted to do something about it. Heard Pemex's cries, because Pemex is the Mexican people, isn't it? Pemex is the Mexican people. And it was under President Trump that Jeffrey Epstein was arrested and lawsuits were filed, and here, or furthered. And so I found me this lawsuit here. That includes, and isn't it curious that James Judson's oil companies are called St. James, like Little St. James and St. James Island, because both little and big, I don't know if it's called large, big, or whatever, St. James Islands were both bought by Jeffrey Epstein. The Little St. James had his weird place, right? But his Zorro Ranch was right on the north call out of White Sands Missile Range. So he had the pipeline from the north call out of White Sands Missile Range, which is very close to Santa Fe or Albuquerque, and above, his ranch was so big, 10,000 acres, 7,500 acres that he bought, and like 2,500 acres that he rented, leased out, right beside, of course, Beto O'Rourke's family ranch and Cesar Duarte, who I haven't mentioned enough, but he's very much in this with his wife, Bertha Gomez. Um, and of course, when I say the fuel theft, all the trafficking goes along with that, including the, 500,000 children that were trafficked across that border through Fort Bliss. The level of vile and vulgar violence is astonishing. And here this lawsuit is with Pemex, filed in 2011. And the case number had a 2019 case number. Well, what happened in 2019? That was the Walmart mass shooting. That was Richard. Richard was reporting, and his reports were blocked, and his transfer requests were denied. And here we have James Judson, who just has been indicted. I hope he goes to jail. The level of crime that these people have done, it's not just about stealing fuel. Think about all the people that actually lost their heads. You're still finding bodies from cartels that they behead people. They hang them from the highways. They shoot them. When we were there, a person was shot. Remember Arturo Alba? He was shot. Willie Moya, he was shot. The level of crime when it comes to children. I know some children cases. I know the mother of Ruby. Do you remember the mother of Ruby? That was Carlos Manuel Salas, right? Another dirty prosecutor that was handpicked by none other than Maru Campos, but I don't think it was totally Maru Campos. I think, her hand was lifted up and her fingers were bent to do the pointing, to point to Carlos Manuel Salas that yes, we will appoint him by Alejandro de la Vega Foster. And I have some really breaking news, more than this motive of that they were, Western refined. And you have to understand that Western fining, of course, has developed through Endeavor and Marathon, right? Petroleum, um, Marathon Corporation, or however that works. But Western refining is Paul Foster and William Sanders. That's Beto O'Rourke's father-in-law. And then the whole other partnership with Westar Bank with Woody Hunt, that's an El Paso Community Foundation. That's all connected. And Arliano Curon, who owned the narco crematorium with Argo Oil and Gas, who was given contracts by Sylvia Brune de Firth in Horizon, right? In Horizon. Um, so this is all like a little group of bad actors helping each other out. And Argo Oil and Gas shares an address with El Paso Matters, which is El Paso Community Foundation, which is Woody Hunt, which is in partnership with Paul Foster. And Paul Foster in partnership and business dealings with William Sanders, Beto O'Rourke's father-in-law. And Beto O'Rourke's company, we can never forget this, hired the family of La Diabla and the family of dirty attorney Justin Underwood. Yes, his wife Brooke worked for Beto O'Rourke with La Diabla's family. La Diabla targeted pregnant women to give them very, C-sections with kitchen knives. This is not me. This is all on record. And then to even take organs. And of course, they needed a narco crematorium, a body dumping area, where we believe also our son was disposed of there. And that's why this is personal to us. So, this is this group that has caused so much crimes against humanity on both sides of the border. Both sides. All for illicit oil theft and trafficking gains, so that they could get on to Forbes and say, "Oh, I'm a billionaire now." I don't think that's in their future, because you see President Trump and 2020 election, God works in mysterious ways. He puts you in the wilderness for a while. He puts you in the wilderness and he makes you work really, really hard. And I don't think that President Trump was just dealing with all of his legal cases, that they were weaponizing all kinds of shenanigans against him. And it's turned out to be that, right? You see the SPLC, the Southern Poverty Law Center, creating hate groups, actually creating hate groups. And of course, that makes sense because they are very hateful people for what they do support. They are the most racist people. This Heidi, she came the day after August 4th, 2019, and said, absolutely, that 8chan manifesto was white supremacy. And it's all because of President Trump. She didn't even mention the Mayellas. She didn't mention that Patrick Crucius's father is connected to the Brazilian guy with the baby farms and everything, exploiting women and babies, hundreds. He's serving 600 years in prison right now down in Brazil. That's Patsy's father, just up to no good. And that Patsy's brother married uh, uh, into a family that's totally up to no good. But given the positions of manager of the El Paso Federal Courthouse, a position in the DA's office under dirty Jaime Esparza, now we know that he's dirty. Now we have hard evidence that he was dirty. Look at the damage that he did for so many years. And he's the one that got Michael Mayella in there. And in the FBI office where the last time we heard, he's still there under that dirty Connell Wetton. That FBI office has been so weaponized because Wetton is the agent that leaked Richard's identity to the cartel because Richard was a whistleblower. He submitted the reports, and it was Connell Wetton that blocked them and leaked his identity. He's the one that put the target on Richard's back. And yeah. And none of this happens without the control of the elections. And now we know that they were controlling the elections, right? Because we have Lisa Weiss, who happens to have a sister with the surname Jetson. Oh, with property in the same location as the Jetsons. You know, the Jetsons that are on this lawsuit with St. James Oil and the Big Star Gathering that were pinpointed by Pemex as stealing fuel. And Lisa Weiss is in charge of the elections in El Paso County. And she is named, which is so interesting, in a recent lawsuit by that area in the Rio Grande Valley that they just indicted like 15 officials for election tampering. And we know that there has been other complaints about her with election tampering. And of course, the Walmart mass shooting and with Veronica Escobar, and you can go on and on why they didn't mention the Mayellas being in the Michael Mayella was also in the Walmart cybersecurity because he is a self-proclaimed and award-winning cybersecurity hacker. They have these, it's kind of like Jonathan Ambrose, who is connected with, was deployed with 143. He went to, he didn't finish it. He doesn't seem to have finished, oh gosh, what is the Army College? West Point. He went to West Point. Yeah, Danae Katz's The fraudsters. That's the guy that was arrested with Danae Katzen, Jonathan Ambrose. But he was big on AI before we even knew what AI was. He was going to all those trainings. So, and of course, Dallas Hart, who's the prime suspect in our son's case. And of course, we have Golden Jetson, right? Um, cybersecurity. But Lisa Weiss, we have 90 days until the midterms, and she's caught up in lawsuits. And I think those lawsuits are going to get, let's say, they're going to expand because of what is coming out with this fuel theft and these connections. Um, with her and the El Paso cartel, I think that it's going to expand. And you don't leave a position of, managing the or directing, however, whatever title she has, of the elections in El Paso, just to anybody if you are, a fuel thief, a big time fuel thief, not a little time, a big time. Because it's not just the fuel thief, right? It's also all the trafficking. And we know that Richard was very concerned with the children because that is what he reported on numerous times, multiple times to CPS, multiple times to Child Protective Services. And of course, Fast and Furious didn't end. And Iran Contra, weapons for drugs, it didn't end. It got more sophisticated. They started doing everything fiscal, which, really got them in trouble because then they didn't pay taxes. They avoided taxes. They wanted their way in every which way. And now, that greed, because Texas, with their watchical fiscal, which is, tax avoidance, uh, lost what they're reporting, and I think they're just reporting on a very light side of it, $1 billion a year. That's for the Texas people. That's money that the Texas people didn't get. And I can't even imagine what's on the Chihuahuan side, the Mexican side, how much money they've lost. And that's not even adding that they used and abused our highways, our ports, our rail systems. Yeah. I mean, the level, uh, I don't think you could even add it up. Maybe someone really smart could add it all up, what it amounts to be. But there's so many variables, right? There's so many variables. Um, It's a lot of money, y'all, that they stole. A lot of money. And with that, crimes against humanity. So, why am I saying this every day to you? Because there is false narratives out there, and now it's coming out that they are false narratives, that they're absolutely manufacturing hate, manufacturing white supremacy, manufacturing that, it's all the cartels. Yes, it's the cartels. It's a cartels, but there is a Mormon mafia too. And there is a group, El Paso Cartel, that even though they were sued, they just upped their game, and they didn't care who they hurt. And then you have those that are like Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, I found out today it was Lisa. What's that? What's his first name? Lisa, in El Paso, that appointed um, Justin Underwood, to you know, okay, get this, and then I'm trying to wrap my head around it so that I can say it right. I probably should have waited till tomorrow, but it's just like, what? He's appointed to this tax economic development for like downtown El Paso, and who works right there beside him? Lisa Weiss's husband. Yeah, Lisa Weiss, the same person that manages the elections, that is under, is in these cases now because of all of this election fraud. Her husband is there with the dirtiest attorney, deciding what's going to be developed in the downtown area of El Paso. I'm no thank you. And it was Lisa that put him there. Yeah. What does that tell you? Because anybody that's anybody in there knows how dirty Justin Underwood is, because he submitted tampered audio recordings to the Walmart case. He's like the attack dog in the Walmart case. He's submitting false subpoenas in the Walmart case. He's, you know, in the Walmart case illegally, you know, illegally. And really, I would say from, you know, all the reading that we have done, it's because of him and all of his finagling and all of his breaking of the gag order, and going after, these false subpoenas and all. When you see the what was going on behind the scenes, he's the one that prevented a trial, and that Patrick Crucius didn't face the death penalty, and all of that. All of that. That tells you something. He knew about the Mayellas, right? He knew about the Crucius Mayellas. Of course, he knew about the Crucius Mayellas. Of course, he knew them. That's why the evidence is just so 100% the Walmart mass shooting was orchestrated and the crime scene was staged, and it was bloody. I'm not saying it wasn't bloody. Yeah, so let me read some of your comments. Um, Thank you for coming on Iraq. Thank you so much. I asked a Muslim friend what was the difference between the way jihadists and cartels do their unalivings. No answer. Um, yeah. Well, we know about Nadal Baim, right? He's in alliance with this whole group. Um, please stay safe, Mrs. Halliday. Thank you so much. Thank you, Anicia. Thank you for your prayers and your love. There's so many of me now. There are so many. Um, so many people are coming forward. So many people are filing. And that is such a blessing because the more people that file and file and file and come out and speak up, the better it is, right? The safer it is. And what President Trump has done by weakening the cartels so much because he has turned off their spigot, their money, their US aid, the trafficking money, the Strait of Hormuz, which was all the gambling, all of that money washing, right? All of the money laundering. That was really the Strait of Hormuz, right? That was Iran. And and of course, in Mexico too, with timeshares, they were arrested now. Horfu, the security minister in Mexico, he just made this amazing arrest of the cartel that was leading these timeshares, which is, a big Ponzi scheme and fraud to a lot of older people in the United States. And they were money laundering through all of those and the gambling and all of that. I mean, they they probably had a good teacher in Jeffrey Epstein, right? For all the money laundering. So all that's being turned off or it's being frozen because you know that our Secretary of Finance is freezing all of these accounts. And then our Department of State is taking away visas, 150,000 visas they have taken away. They need to take away Carlos Manuel Salas because he has a house in Texas, okay? He's living in Texas and he's supposed to be the prosecutor in Chihuahua, right, in the northern zone. And yet he's has a house in El Paso, just like Arleano Caron, just like Purchase, right? He lives in El Paso. Uh, um, just it's just mind blowing because they just destroyed Chihuahua. Then they don't want to live in Chihuahua, and it's so dangerous because they're cutting off heads and hanging people from the uh, the highways, right? The overpasses. So they don't want to live there. Why not? Why don't they do their job and make Chihuahua great? And then he would want to live in Chihuahua. Mexico has great history, great land, great potential. Why doesn't he want to do that for them? There's a priest that's going to exorcise Jeffrey Epstein's ranch in New Mexico. 100%. 100%. There's real evil there. Thank you for that. They're making a big deal because President Trump wants to put the border wall through Big Bend. Well, he already has diggers out there and they're moving land already. They're putting up the wall and, um, it is that is also an oil field. And then, there's all these tunnels over there that they were stealing oil. They were using those tunnels for trafficking. And that's all in that Big Bend area and right below the Big Bend area in the valley. And, you know, um, that's the Jetsons area. I don't know if I can say the Weiss Jetson area. Um, investigators are going to have to find out if there's some shenanigans going on between the Weisses and the Jetsons down there. But yeah, lawsuits keep coming. And it is a very good thing. And a lot of indictments, a lot of arrests, turning off all the money. And like I started to say, when you weaken them so much, the ability to retaliate is diminished, right? So they have been weakened and their ability to retaliate has diminished, and therefore people are not so afraid of losing their lives and their livelihoods and their children and all of that. And they are speaking up and they're making lawsuits and everything. And it's like this the families of the narco crematorium, they're absolute heroes. They've been rallying. I hope that you rally with them. They've been rallying because they want their loved ones back too. Can you imagine? You pay for a cremation and you're handed a plastic urn full of dust that is construction material or some dead animal. And then what are they doing to your loved one? And then the other ones that are there, and who has these bodies right now? Salvador Purchase Jr. He was given he was part of the crime, and they gave one of the criminals the evidence. Here, take all the bodies. Now you understand why this is a vicious negotiation for our son's remains. And why so many of those other families still have no answers, because we know that there were bodies in there that had signs of torture, and bodies in there that were in uniform. And we know that for a fact. That was reported. And so, yeah. Uh, but these families that are sticking to their guns are absolute heroes. And I'm very, very grateful for them. Uh, when you're in this situation, you need all the help, and all the sharing, and all the prayers. Um, absolutely, as much as you can get. And we're so grateful for everybody for that. So, yes, lawsuits keep coming. Yes. And the truth about everything is absolutely coming out. You cannot believe the narrative, and there's so many people that say they're doing good, and they're really part of this swindling, right? Um, so once you know what to look out for, it helps, but you still have to be so careful. You still have to be so careful who's trying to swindle you and do some kind of psyop, because they've really perfected it, right? They perfected these psyops, and they lie. They lie so easily. They're like professional liars. um, yeah, and they have no remorse for their lies. That's what I'm saying. This fuel theft and all the trafficking, it's it's really it's the penalty has to be really severe, because the crimes against humanity that they have done is severe. So, thank you so much. God bless you, and I will be back tomorrow, God willing. And please share, 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 and fight